Commander Kayla Vex stood on the bridge of Haven's Light and watched her world die. Through the massive viewing screen, she could see the orange flames covering the surface of New Zelani. The planet had been green and beautiful just 2 days ago. Now it burned like a giant torch in space. The Vorthan Empire ships hung in space like metal sharks. Their black hulls reflected no light. Red symbols marked each ship. Kala knew those symbols meant death for her people. The Vorthans had been moving through their space for months, burning every world they found. "Commander, we have reports from the 3rd Defense Wing." Lieutenant Jel Morin's voice shook as he spoke. 37 ships lost. Only 4 made it back to our lines. Kayla closed her eyes. The 3rd Wing had been her best pilots. Good people with families waiting at home. Now they were gone, turned to dust by Vorthan plasma weapons. She opened her eyes and looked at the tactical display. 40 Zelani ships remained. The enemy had over 300. "How long until they reach the core worlds?" she asked. 6 hours, Commander. Maybe less if they push hard. 6 hours. 8 billion people lived on the core worlds. Men, women, children who had never hurt anyone. The Vorthans would kill them all. Kayla had seen the reports from other systems. The enemy did not take prisoners. They did not leave survivors. They burned everything. Science Officer Vel Kareen walked to her side. His blue skin had turned pale with fear. "Commander, we should evacuate the civilian population. Get as many ships as possible and run." "Run where?" Kayla asked. "They will follow us. They always follow. And we cannot save 8 billion people with the ships we have." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew she was right. The Vorthans moved too fast. Their weapons were too strong. The Zelani had fought bravely for 8 months, but it was over. Soon their entire species would be nothing but ash floating in space. Kayla walked to the communication station. A crazy idea had been growing in her mind for the past hour. It was dangerous. It might make things worse. But doing nothing meant certain death for everyone. "Jel, open a channel on the old Galactic emergency frequency." Lieutenant Morin looked confused. "Commander, no one has used that frequency for 200 years. The Galactic Council stopped monitoring it when the new systems came online." "I know. Do it anyway." The old frequency crackled to life. Static filled the speakers. Kayla had heard stories about this channel from her grandfather. In the old days, when space travel was new and dangerous, ships in trouble would broadcast on this frequency. Someone would always be listening. Someone would always try to help. But that was long ago. Now the galaxy was divided into empires and territories. Everyone had their own problems. No one helped strangers anymore. Kayla took a deep breath and began to speak. "This is Commander Kayla Vex of the Zelani Coalition Defense Force. Our people are under attack by the Vorthan Empire. They are committing genocide. We have lost most of our fleet. In 6 hours, they will reach our core worlds and kill 8 billion civilians." Her voice broke slightly. "Any species capable of military assistance, we offer everything we have in exchange for intervention. Please help us." She included video files with the message, pictures of burning cities, families running through streets while plasma fire fell from the sky, children crying over their dead parents. The Vorthans had done this to 17 worlds. They would do it again. The message went out into the darkness of space. Kayla did not expect an answer. The nearest civilization with military ships was 6 days away. Even if they wanted to help, they could not arrive in time. Far away on a small blue planet, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the Sol System communications array. He was drinking coffee and reading reports when the message arrived. At first, he thought it was a mistake. No one used the old frequency anymore. Then he saw the video files. His coffee cup fell from his hands and shattered on the floor. He had seen war before, but this was different. This was murder on a scale he could barely understand. Jake's hands shook as he opened a secure channel to Earth Defense Command. Admiral Lisa Hayes answered immediately. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun. Her green eyes were sharp and intelligent. "Admiral, we have received a distress call on the old Galactic emergency frequency. The Zelani Coalition is under attack. They are requesting military assistance." Admiral Hayes frowned. "The Zelani? Our files show them as a peaceful species. Agricultural worlds mostly. No military threats. Yes, ma'am. They are being attacked by something called the Vorthon Empire. I am sending you the video files now. Admiral Hayes watched the footage in silence. Her face grew harder with each image. When the videos ended, she was quiet for a long moment. How long do we have? She asked. According to their message, 6 hours until the enemy reaches their core worlds. Admiral Hayes looked at the star charts on her wall. Earth's policy had always been to watch but not interfere. They had been hiding in their corner of the galaxy for 15 years, learning about other species, but staying hidden. The galactic community did not even know Earth existed. But the images she had just seen changed everything. Children running from plasma fire, families torn apart by weapons designed to cause maximum suffering. This was not war. This was the systematic murder of an entire species. Get me the Defense Council, Admiral Hayes said. Emergency session. And Jake, start tracking everything we know about this Vorthon Empire. I want to know what we are dealing with. The Earth Defense Council met within an hour. 12 people sat around a circular table deep beneath the Colorado mountains. They had planned for many scenarios, but this was not one of them. Colonel Ryan Blake spread intelligence files across the table. We have been tracking Vorthon expansion for 8 months. They have consumed 17 star systems. Over 40 billion confirmed dead. They are not just conquering territory. They are clearing it. Clearing it for what? Asked Council Member Ellen Ross. Colonization. They want empty worlds to fill with their own people. Every other species is just in the way. Admiral Hayes stood up. According to our projections, the Vorthons are moving in a pattern. If they continue their current expansion, they will reach our region of space within 5 years. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Earth would eventually face the same choice as the Zilani. Fight and die or run and die slowly. We vote now, Admiral Hayes said. All in favor of military intervention. 12 hands rose around the table. Admiral Hayes activated the fleet communications system. Admiral Kate Sullivan, this is Defense Command. You are authorized to deploy the 3rd Fleet immediately. Destination, Zilani Space. Mission parameters, stop the genocide and eliminate the threat. On the bridge of Haven's Light, Commander Kayla Vex waited for an answer that she knew would never come. Her people had 6 hours left to live, and she had done everything she could think of. The old frequency carried only static. She did not know that help was already on the way. Space twisted and bent as the human fleet arrived. 24 ships appeared from hyperspace at the edge of the Helios system. They moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the light of distant stars. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the EDS Vengeance. She was a tall woman with short black hair and cold blue eyes. She had been fighting wars since she was 18 years old. Now at 45, she was one of Earth's best military commanders. Captain Rogers, what do we see? She asked. Captain Dan Rogers studied his displays. He was a thin man with graying hair and quick hands. He had served with Admiral Sullivan for 10 years and trusted her completely. 312 enemy vessels, Admiral. They are positioned around the inhabited worlds in a blockade formation. I am detecting weapon launches. Bioweapon torpedoes heading for the surface. Admiral Sullivan's jaw tightened. Bioweapons were designed to kill every living thing on a planet. Plants, animals, people. Everything would die in agony. She had seen the reports from other worlds. She would not let it happen again. On Haven's Light, alarms screamed through the corridors. Commander Kayla Vex ran to the sensor station. Lieutenant Nara Thel was staring at her screen with wide eyes. Commander, 24 new ships just appeared. They are not Vorthon. I cannot identify their technology. Kayla looked at the display. The new ships were unlike anything in their databases. They moved with a strange grace like predators hunting in a pack. Their weapon signatures were completely unknown. Are they targeting us? Kala asked. No, Commander. They are moving toward the Vorthon fleet. A communication signal reached Haven's Light. The voice was clear and strong. It belonged to a female who spoke with absolute authority. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. We are here to help. Hold your fire and give us tactical data on enemy positions. Kayla stared at the communication panel. Earth? She had never heard of any species called Earth. How had they arrived so quickly? The distress call had been sent only 18 hours ago. Send them everything, she ordered. Ship positions, weapon types, tactical analysis. Everything we have. Admiral Sullivan received the data and studied it quickly. The Vorthons had superior numbers, but their formation was designed for siege warfare, not ship-to-ship combat. They were confident and careless. That would be their mistake. All ships. This is vengeance, she said into her communicator. Execute attack pattern 7. Target priority any vessel launching biological weapons. Rules of engagement show no mercy. The human fleet split into 3 groups. 8 stealth frigates led by Commander Alex Turner disappeared from sensors as their cloaking systems activated. 6 heavy cruisers and 8 destroyers commanded by Captain Helen Ward moved toward the Vorthon front lines. Admiral Sullivan took the 2 massive carriers directly toward the ships launching planet-killer weapons. Commander Turner's stealth ships appeared behind the Vorthon fleet like ghosts. They had moved through space undetected, using technology the galaxy had never seen. Turner was a young man with sharp eyes and steady hands. He had trained for this kind of warfare his entire life. Shadow Squadron, weapons free, he said quietly. Make them count. The first Vorthon ships died without warning. Massive kinetic slugs moving at incredible speed tore through their hulls like paper. The Vorthons had shields designed to stop energy weapons, but the humans used solid metal projectiles that could not be deflected. Captain Ward's cruiser group struck the Vorthon front lines with devastating force. Her ships moved fast and hit hard using tactics the enemy had never encountered. When Vorthon vessels tried to ram them, the human ships accelerated directly into the collision and fired point blank. The EDS Thunder, one of Ward's destroyers, disappeared in a massive explosion as it destroyed a Vorthon battlecruiser. Both ships were vaporized, but the human captain had chosen the target carefully. The battlecruiser had been coordinating enemy movements. Without it, the Vorthon formation began to break apart. Admiral Sullivan's carriers reached the bioweapon ships. These vessels were huge and slow, designed to carry planet-killing torpedoes. They were protected by smaller escort ships, but not enough to stop the human attack. The Vengeance opened fire with every weapon it carried. Energy beams, missile swarms, and kinetic cannons struck the nearest bioweapon ship. The massive vessel's hull cracked and split. Atmosphere rushed out into space carrying debris and bodies. But what happened next shocked the watching Zilani more than the destruction of enemy ships. Human Marines in powered armor boarded the damaged Vorthon vessels. They moved through the corridors like hunters, killing everything they found. Commander Kala listened to intercepted Vorthon communications with growing horror. The enemy soldiers were screaming. They begged for mercy as human Marines hunted them down one by one. The Vorthons, who had terrorized the galaxy for years, were afraid. Please, we surrender, came one transmission. We will leave this system. We will not return. The human response was cold and final. Surrender not accepted. You chose to launch bioweapons against civilians. The penalty is death. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 60 Vorthon ships had been destroyed and 30 more were disabled and drifting. The remaining 200 vessels retreated to the outer edge of the system, regrouping for another attack. Admiral Sullivan contacted Commander Kayla directly. Her image appeared on the main screen of Haven's Light. She was an attractive woman, but her eyes were cold and hard. Kayla had seen those eyes before, in the faces of professional soldiers who had killed many times. Commander Vex, we have stopped the immediate threat. The bioweapon torpedoes have been destroyed before reaching your planets. But this is not over. The enemy will return with reinforcements. Admiral Sullivan, I must ask, where do you come from? We have no record of your species in our databases. We come from a system you call Sol 3. Our planet is Earth. We have been observing galactic affairs for some time. This is our first direct intervention. Kayla felt a chill run down her spine. Sol 3 was listed in their files as a primitive world with a species barely achieving spaceflight. But the technology she had just witnessed was far beyond anything the galaxy possessed. How is this possible? She asked. Admiral Sullivan's expression did not change. We develop technology quickly when we need to. Commander, we need to discuss strategy for the next phase. The Vorthons will call for reinforcements. When they return, they will bring everything they have. How many ships can they bring? Our intelligence suggests the Vorthon Empire has over 50,000 vessels. What you faced today was a minor raid force. The number hit Kayla like a physical blow. 50,000 ships. Her entire species had never built more than 500 vessels in their history. Then we are still doomed, she said quietly. Admiral Sullivan's smile was cold and predatory. No, Commander. You called for help and help has arrived. But you need to understand something about humanity. We do not fight wars to achieve victory. We fight wars to eliminate threats permanently. The transmission ended, leaving Kayla staring at a blank screen. She looked around the bridge at her officers. They all had the same expression of shock and growing fear. They had called for help and help had come. But as Kayla watched human ships patrol the system with deadly efficiency, she began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The humans had saved them from the Vorthons, but what exactly had they unleashed? Outside, human engineering teams began setting up defensive positions throughout the system. They worked with mechanical precision, building weapons platforms and supply depots with technology the Zilani could not understand. Admiral Sullivan stood on her bridge and watched the work progress. Her intelligence officer, Major Sam Parker, approached with a datapad full of reports. Admiral, we have intercepted long-range Vorthon communications. They are calling for reinforcements from their core territories. We estimate 30,000 ships will arrive within 6 weeks. Admiral Sullivan nodded. Good. Request additional fleets from Earth Defense Command. Tell them we need Protocol Omega authorization. Major Parker's face went pale. Protocol Omega had never been used before. It authorized the complete elimination of enemy civilizations. Admiral, are you sure? Major, the Vorthons have committed genocide against 17 species. They have plans to eliminate every non-Vorthon life form in this region of space. Yes, I am sure. As the Major walked away to send the message, Admiral Sullivan looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vorthon Empire was preparing for war. They thought they were facing another weak species like the Zilani. They were about to learn what humanity was truly capable of. The War Council met aboard the Zilani ship Eternal Hope. Commander Kayla Vex sat across from Admiral Kate Sullivan and her officers. This was the first time the two species had met face-to-face, and both sides studied each other carefully. The humans looked remarkably similar to several known galactic species. They had 2 arms, 2 legs, and faces that were not too different from Zilani features, but there was something in their eyes that made Kayla uncomfortable. They looked at everything like soldiers examining a battlefield. Admiral Sullivan wasted no time with pleasantries. She activated a holographic display that showed the entire galactic region. Red markers indicated Vorthon-controlled systems. The number was staggering. The Vorthon Empire has been expanding for 8 years, Sullivan said. They have consumed 17 star systems and killed over 40 billion people. Based on their movement patterns, they are not just conquering territory. They are clearing it for colonization. Zilani Science Minister Velkarin leaned forward. His blue skin was pale with worry. Admiral, our records show no species matching your technology. Where exactly do you come from? Admiral Sullivan looked at her intelligence officer, Major Sam Parker. He was a tall man with dark hair and sharp features. He activated another display showing a small yellow star system. We come from Sol 3. You call it Earth. We have been observing galactic affairs for some time, but this is our first intervention. The Zilani Council members looked shocked. Minister Karen checked his datapad quickly. Sol 3 is listed as a primitive world. Our surveys show a species with basic nuclear technology. That survey was conducted 30 years ago. Major Parker's display changed to show Earth's technological development over time. The progression was frightening. In 30 years, humanity had gone from primitive rockets to faster-than-light travel. From nuclear weapons to technology that could manipulate gravity itself. How is this possible? Minister Karen asked. No species develops this quickly. Captain Dan Rogers, Admiral Sullivan's tactical officer, answered with cold precision. War. We have been at war with each other for our entire history. Every major breakthrough came from military necessity. We did not develop space travel to explore. We developed it to gain advantages over our enemies. The Zilani struggled to understand this concept. Most galactic species achieved spaceflight through cooperation and shared resources. The idea of reaching the stars through constant warfare was alien to them. You fought wars against your own species? Asked Minister Karen. Constantly, Rogers replied. We have had over 200 major wars in the past 1,000 years. We learned to make better weapons, better ships, better strategies. Peace was just a pause between conflicts. Admiral Sullivan continued the briefing. What you witnessed in our recent battle was not our best capability. It was a limited engagement using 15% of our available force. We brought 24 ships because our analysis suggested that would be enough to test Vorthon defenses. Commander Kala felt a chill. If that devastating attack was only 15% of human capability, what could they do at full strength? A new transmission arrived from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Lisa Hayes appeared on the secure channel. She was an older woman with gray hair and hard eyes. Behind her, Kayla could see what looked like a massive military facility. Admiral Sullivan, we have completed analysis of Vorthon Empire strength. Total force estimate, 52,000 vessels across 200 star systems. Population, 400 billion. Military doctrine, total warfare with biological weapons. The numbers should have been devastating, but Admiral Sullivan nodded calmly. Smaller than our initial projections. We estimated twice that number. Commander Kayla realized something that made her blood run cold. Humanity had been conducting secret intelligence operations throughout the galaxy while remaining completely undetected. If they could spy on the massive Vorthon Empire without being discovered, what else did they know? "How long have you been watching us?" she asked quietly. Major Parker consulted his files. "We have maintained surveillance on 17 major galactic civilizations for 12 years. We know your trade routes, military capabilities, political structures, and population centers." The casual way he said it left the Zilani speechless. Humanity had been studying them like insects under a microscope. Admiral Hayes continued her briefing from Earth. The Vorthon Empire represents a direct threat to all species in this region, including humanity. Our projections show they will reach Earth's territory within 5 years if their expansion continues. What do you recommend? Admiral Sullivan asked. Total war strategy. Complete elimination of Vorthon military capability and political structure. We cannot allow any possibility of future resurgence. Commander Kala felt sick. The humans were discussing the complete destruction of an empire containing 400 billion people, as if they were planning a training exercise. "Admiral," she said carefully, "surely there must be civilians in the Vorthon Empire who are not responsible for these crimes." "Innocent people who do not support their government's actions." Admiral Sullivan turned her cold blue eyes toward Kayla. "Commander, our intelligence indicates that Vorthon society is built around the concept of species superiority. Their children are taught from birth that all other life forms are inferior and should be eliminated. Their civilians celebrate each successful genocide." Major Parker activated another display showing intercepted Vorthon communications. The images were horrific. Vorthon news broadcasts showed crowds cheering as reports came in about successful planetary sterilizations. Children waved flags while their leaders announced the death of entire species. "This is not a military problem," Admiral Sullivan said. "This is a cultural problem. The entire Vorthon civilization is dedicated to galactic genocide. Partial solutions will not work." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent alert. Long-range sensors had detected a massive fleet approaching the system. Captain Rogers analyzed the data quickly. "Admiral, we have 3,000 Vorthon vessels inbound. They will arrive in 48 hours. The Zilani officers looked terrified. 3,000 ships was enough to destroy everything in the system." Admiral Sullivan's reaction was different. She seemed almost pleased. "Excellent. That is much larger than expected. Major Parker, send a message to Earth Defense Command. Request immediate deployment of the 5th, 7th, and 9th fleets." "Admiral," Commander Kayla said urgently. 3,000 ships. Will be eliminated within 6 hours of arrival," Sullivan finished. "Commander, you need to understand something about human military doctrine. We do not fight defensive wars. When someone attacks us, we destroy them completely. When someone threatens us, we eliminate the threat permanently." Admiral Hayes signed off with authorization for additional human fleets. Within hours, reports began arriving of massive human fleet movements throughout their territory. Earth was sending not hundreds but thousands of ships to the Zilani system. Commander Kayla walked to the observation deck and looked out at space. Already she could see human ships arriving. Massive vessels larger than anything she had ever imagined. Ships with weapon systems that defied understanding. Engineering platforms that could build defensive installations in hours rather than months. Minister Karen joined her at the window. His face was troubled. "Kala, what have we done?" "We called for help," she replied quietly. "Yes, but what kind of help is this?" "These humans, they do not fight wars. They exterminate threats. There is a difference." Kayla nodded. She was beginning to understand that humanity approached conflict differently than any known species. They did not seek victory in battle. They sought the complete elimination of enemies. Not just military defeat, but total annihilation. A young Zilani officer approached them. "Commander, the humans are requesting access to our military databases. They want complete information about all galactic species, trade routes, and political alliances. Give them everything," Kayla said. "Commander, give them everything they want. We are no longer in control of this situation. Perhaps we never were." As night fell over the Eternal Hope, Commander Kayla lay in her quarters and thought about the choice they had made. The Vorthons would have killed every Zilani in the galaxy. That was certain. The humans would save them. That was also certain. But the price of salvation was becoming clear. They had not just called for military assistance. They had awakened something that viewed galactic warfare as a management problem to be solved through superior technology and overwhelming force. Outside her window, human ships continued to arrive. Each one carried weapons that could destroy planets. Each one was crewed by soldiers who had been fighting wars for their entire species' history. The Zilani were safe now. But as Kayla watched the human fleet grow larger and more powerful, she wondered if the rest of the galaxy would be safe from their saviors. 3 weeks after the first battle, the Helios system had become a fortress. Human ships filled the space around every planet. Over 200 vessels now patrolled the area, ranging from small frigates to massive ships the size of cities. Commander Kayla Vex stood on the observation deck of her ship and watched human engineering teams work. They moved with mechanical precision, building defensive platforms and supply depots with incredible speed. What should have taken months was completed in days. The largest human ship was called the EDS Ragnarok. It was 3 times bigger than any Vorthan vessel, bristling with weapon systems the Zilani could not understand. Captain Ellen Foster commanded the massive ship. She was a stern woman with gray hair and scars on her face from previous battles. Admiral Kate Sullivan called a briefing aboard the Ragnarok. The ship's command center was enormous, filled with holographic displays showing tactical information from across the galaxy. Human officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Earth Defense Command has authorized Category 7 weapons, Admiral Sullivan announced. "We are no longer operating under standard engagement protocols." Major Sam Parker, the intelligence officer, looked uncomfortable. "Admiral, Category 7 has never been deployed in actual combat. The effects could be unpredictable." "The effects will be decisive," Sullivan replied coldly. "The Vorthan Empire has called for total reinforcement. We estimate 30,000 ships are moving toward this system. We will meet them with maximum force." Commander Kayla felt sick. 30,000 ships. Even with human help, such numbers seemed impossible to defeat. But Admiral Sullivan acted as if this was good news. Captain Dan Rogers activated a tactical display. "We have identified 7 major Vorthan fleet staging areas. Each contains between 3,000 and 5,000 vessels. Intelligence suggests they plan a coordinated assault from multiple directions." "Perfect," Admiral Sullivan said. "We will eliminate them one group at a time before they can combine their forces." A priority message arrived from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Lisa Hayes appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Kayla could see massive industrial facilities producing ships and weapons. "Admiral Sullivan, the President has authorized Protocol Omega for this engagement. Rules of engagement are suspended. Your objective is total victory through maximum force application." The human officers on the bridge nodded grimly. Commander Kayla did not understand what Protocol Omega meant, but the way the humans discussed it made her afraid. Captain Foster began preparing her ship for operations that revealed the true extent of human military technology. The weapons she activated had names like gravitational, cascade devices, and temporal displacement, systems, and quantum disruption fields. But the most frightening revelation came during a conversation between Admiral Sullivan and her weapons officer. They discussed something called stellar modification systems that could apparently change the behavior of stars themselves. "Admiral," Commander Kayla said carefully, "what exactly are Category 7 weapons?" Admiral Sullivan looked at her with cold blue eyes. "Weapons designed to eliminate entire star systems, Commander. We developed them as a last resort against extinction-level threats." The casual way she said it left Kayla speechless. Humanity had built weapons that could destroy star systems. and they spoke about using them as if they were discussing dinner plans. The first demonstration of human capabilities came when a Vorthon advance fleet arrived at the edge of the system. 800 ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Their commanders expected to face the same weak resistance they had encountered throughout their expansion. Instead, they found something that defied their understanding of warfare. Admiral Sullivan gave a single order: deploy System Modification Device Alpha. What happened next would be talked about in whispers throughout the galaxy for generations. The humans did not attack the Vorthon fleet. They did not engage in ship-to-ship combat. Instead, they activated a weapon that changed the fundamental nature of space itself. The system's outer gas giant began to glow. Within minutes, it had become a temporary pulsar, generating directed energy bursts that vaporized everything in their path. The entire Vorthon fleet was destroyed in 12 seconds. 800 ships simply ceased to exist. Commander Kayla watched the tactical display in stunned horror. There had been no battle, no heroic last stands, no opportunity for surrender. One moment the enemy fleet was there. The next moment there was nothing but expanding clouds of plasma. Target eliminated, Captain Rogers reported with the same tone he might use to announce dinner was ready. Collateral damage minimal. Energy dissipation within acceptable parameters. Admiral Sullivan nodded approvingly. Tactical assessment. Vorthon Empire military doctrine appears inadequate for sustained conflict against human strategic capabilities. Over the following weeks, more Vorthon fleets arrived. Each one was larger than the last. Each one was eliminated with the same systematic efficiency. The humans rotated between different types of weapons, apparently testing their effectiveness in actual combat. One fleet was trapped in a temporal loop, doomed to repeat their destruction for eternity. Another was collapsed into microscopic black holes that consumed the ships from within. A third simply vanished from reality as if it had never existed. Commander Kayla began to understand that humanity did not just have superior technology. They had weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe. They could bend space, alter time, and reshape matter at the atomic level. But the most disturbing aspect was how casually they used these incredible weapons. Human officers discussed the annihilation of entire fleets as routine operational procedures. They showed no emotion when eliminating thousands of enemy ships and millions of crew members. Major Parker provided regular intelligence updates that revealed the scope of human surveillance operations. They had been monitoring not just the Vorthon Empire, but every major civilization in the galaxy. They knew trade routes, military capabilities, political weaknesses, and population centers for dozens of species. "How long have you been preparing for galactic warfare?" Commander Kayla asked during one briefing. "We began serious preparation 12 years ago," Major Parker replied, "when we achieved faster-than-light travel and discovered the existence of other species. Our analysis indicated that galactic conflict was inevitable." "So you have been planning this war for over a decade." "We have been planning for every possible war," Admiral Sullivan corrected. "Our military doctrine requires preparation for conflict with any potential enemy. We identified the Vorthon Empire as a Category 9 threat 8 years ago." "What does Category 9 mean?" "Extinction-level threat requiring total military response. Complete elimination of enemy capability and infrastructure." Commander Kayla felt a chill. Humanity had not just responded to the Zilani distress call. They had been watching the Vorthon Empire for years, waiting for an excuse to eliminate what they saw as a threat to galactic stability. The largest Vorthon fleet yet assembled arrived at the end of the month. 15,000 ships emerged from hyperspace in a formation that stretched across half the system. Their commanders were confident that such overwhelming numbers would finally break human resistance. Admiral Sullivan's response was swift and absolute. She activated what she called a dimensional cascade weapon that opened rifts in space itself. The Vorthon fleet was scattered across multiple realities, with different ships ending up in different dimensions. Most were never seen again. The few Vorthon ships that survived sent desperate messages to their homeworlds. Commander Kayla intercepted some of these transmissions. Vorthon officers who had terrorized the galaxy for years were now screaming in terror, begging their superiors to negotiate peace with the humans. But humanity was not interested in negotiation. Admiral Sullivan's strategy was simple: complete elimination of the Vorthon Empire. Not just military defeat, but total annihilation of their civilization. "Admiral," Commander Kayla said during their final briefing, "surely some form of conditional surrender." "No," Sullivan cut her off. "The Vorthan Empire has demonstrated its commitment to galactic genocide. Any survivors would eventually rebuild and resume their expansion. The only acceptable outcome is complete elimination." Commander Kayla realized that humanity had not come to save the Zilani from war. They had come to end the war permanently. By destroying one side completely, the Vorthons would not be defeated. They would be erased from existence. As she watched human ships prepare for their final assault on Vorthon territory, Commander Kayla understood the true nature of her species' saviors. They were not warriors or soldiers in any traditional sense. They were exterminators equipped with technology that could reshape reality itself. The galaxy would be safe from the Vorthan Empire, but as human ships disappeared into hyperspace carrying weapons that could destroy star systems, Commander Kayla wondered if the galaxy would be safe from its saviors. 6 months after the desperate distress call, the war reached its final stage. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded over 800 human ships as they approached Vorth Prime, the capital world of the Vorthan Empire. The planet was defended by 12,000 of the Empire's most advanced warships. Commander Kayla Vex watched the final battle from the bridge of Admiral Sullivan's flagship. What she witnessed would haunt her for the rest of her life. The engagement lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes, but it changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Vorthan Imperial Guard was the most feared military force in known space. For decades, their ships had burned worlds and eliminated entire species. Their weapons could crack planets, and their tactics had never failed. They believed themselves invincible. They were wrong. The human fleet approached Vorth Prime in 3 massive formations. Each group contained weapons that defied galactic understanding of physics. Ships the size of moons carried devices that could manipulate gravity, time, and the fundamental forces of reality. Admiral Sullivan stood calmly on her bridge as the enemy fleet moved to intercept them. She wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations. Her blue eyes were cold and focused. She had commanded this war with the same emotion she might use to organize a supply inventory. "All ships, this is vengeance," she said into her communicator. "Execute terminal resolution protocol. Target priority, complete system sterilization. Acceptable losses, 0. The battle began with the Vorthans launching everything they had. Plasma cannons, bioweapon torpedoes, gravity bombs, and fusion mines filled space with deadly energy. For a moment, it looked like the traditional space warfare that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. Then the humans responded. Captain Ellen Foster's ship, the Ragnarok, fired a weapon that created an expanding bubble of altered space-time. Any Vorthon vessel caught in the bubble simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but removed from reality as if it had never been built. Captain Dan Rogers commanded a squadron of destroyers that launched missiles containing compressed black holes. When these missiles detonated, they created gravitational fields strong enough to tear apart entire formations of enemy ships. Metal hulls stretched and snapped like rubber bands before being sucked into infinitely small points. But the most horrifying weapons came from the human stealth ships. Commander Alex Turner's frigates fired devices that trapped Vorthon vessels in temporal loops. These ships would explode and reform over and over again. Their crews experienced death repeatedly while remaining conscious throughout the process. Commander Kayla watched Vorthan battleships collapse into microscopic dimensions, their crews compressed into spaces smaller than atoms but somehow remaining alive during the transformation. She saw enemy formations disappear into parallel realities, scattered across dimensions that human science had learned to access. Within 4 hours, 12,000 Vorthon ships had been eliminated without destroying a single human vessel. The Imperial Guard, which had terrorized the galaxy for generations, was gone. But the true horror was yet to come. Admiral Sullivan implemented what human military doctrine called Terminal Resolution Protocol. The planet below was not invaded or bombarded in any traditional sense. Instead, it was systematically sterilized using weapons that eliminated all biological matter while leaving buildings and infrastructure intact. Captain Foster provided the tactical summary with mechanical precision. Planetary sterilization complete. Biological contamination eliminated. Infrastructure preserved for potential future use. Atmospheric processing can begin immediately. Commander Kayla realized with growing horror that humanity had not just defeated the Vorthan Empire, they had erased it from existence. Every Vorthan world, every colony, every military base had been systematically cleansed of life. 400 billion people had been eliminated in 6 months. Admiral, Kayla said quietly, what you have done here, this is genocide on a scale the galaxy has never seen. Admiral Sullivan turned her cold blue eyes toward the Zilani commander. The Vorthan Empire represented an existential threat to 63 species in this galactic region. Their own strategic documents outlined plans for the complete elimination of all non-Vorthan life. We have prevented a much larger genocide by eliminating the source. Major Sam Parker activated a holographic display showing captured Vorthan intelligence. The files revealed the Empire's true plans. They had not been content with conquering territory. They intended to eliminate every other sapient species in the galaxy and replace them with Vorthan colonies. Complete galactic sterilization, followed by Vorthan recolonization, Parker explained. They had already identified target worlds for their expansion over the next 1,000 years. Earth was on that list. The information should have justified humanity's actions, but Commander Kayla felt sick. The systematic elimination of an entire civilization, regardless of the justification, challenged every principle of civilized behavior she had ever known. News of the Vorthan Empire's destruction spread throughout the galaxy within days. The reaction was complex and terrifying. Some species celebrated the end of a genocidal threat. Others feared what humanity might do next. Diplomatic envoys from dozens of civilizations requested meetings with Earth Defense Command. Some came seeking alliance. Others came seeking assurance that humanity would not turn its attention to them next. Admiral Lisa Hayes arrived personally to oversee the transition to peacetime operations. She was an older woman with gray hair and intelligent eyes. She had commanded Earth's military for 15 years and understood the implications of what they had done. Hayes convened a conference with representatives from all major galactic powers. The meeting was held aboard the human command ship, surrounded by weapons that could destroy star systems. The message was clear before anyone spoke. Humanity has no territorial ambitions beyond our current sphere of influence, Admiral Hayes announced. We have no desire to govern other species or expand our borders. However, we will not tolerate genocidal regimes or existential threats to civilized species. The diplomatic language was polite, but everyone understood the real meaning. Humanity would serve as the galaxy's ultimate judge of species survival. They did not want to rule other civilizations, but they had demonstrated the capability and willingness to eliminate any society they deemed dangerous. Ambassador Vel Naris of the Altarian Federation asked the question everyone was thinking. Admiral Hayes, how do we know we are safe from human judgment? What prevents you from deciding that we are a threat? Admiral Hayes's answer chilled everyone in the room. Maintain civilized behavior. Respect the sovereignty of other species. Do not attempt galactic conquest or species elimination. Follow these simple guidelines, and you have nothing to fear from humanity. The implications were staggering. Humanity had appointed itself as the galaxy's arbiter of civilized behavior. Any species that stepped out of line would face the same systematic elimination that had befallen the Vorthan Empire. Commander Kayla returned to Zilani space as a hero. Her distress call had saved her people from extinction. Parades were held in her honor. Monuments were built to commemorate humanity's intervention. Children learned songs about the day salvation came from the stars, but Kayla could not celebrate. She stood on the observation deck of her ship and looked out at space, knowing that human monitoring stations were watching everything. Ships equipped with technology beyond galactic understanding patrolled the darkness, ensuring that no new threats would emerge. The galaxy was safer now. The Vorthan Empire's genocidal expansion had been stopped permanently. Dozens of species could sleep peacefully, knowing they would not face extermination. But safety had come at a price that challenged the fundamental nature of galactic civilization. Humanity had revealed itself as the apex predator of space, a species so dangerous that even calling for their help carried risks. Minister Velkarin visited Commander Kayla in her quarters. His blue skin looked pale and tired. He had aged years in the past 6 months. Kayla, the other species are asking questions. They want to know if we knew what humanity was capable of when we called for help. What do you tell them? Kala asked. The truth. We were desperate. Our people were dying. We called for help from anyone who would listen. He paused. But sometimes I wonder if we should have chosen extinction instead. Commander Kala understood his conflict. The Zalani were alive. Their worlds were safe. Their children would grow up free from the threat of Vorthon genocide. But they lived now under the protection of something that might be more dangerous than any enemy they had ever faced. Admiral, Sullivan's final communication to the Zalani. Government contained both promise and warning. We will be watching. We hope we never have to intervene again. The human fleet departed, leaving behind only small monitoring stations and patrol ships. But everyone knew this was not the end. Somewhere in the darkness of space, weapons capable of destroying civilizations waited quietly. Earth's military continued to develop new technologies, new weapons, new ways to eliminate threats. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. In the vast emptiness between stars, there existed a species so dangerous that their protection came with conditions. Humanity would not conquer other worlds, but they